Happy evening. How are you guys feeling? Today's session, I would like to speak about yoga and its benefits. Let's start with what is yoga. In a previous session, I had spoken yoga means unions, feeling that oneness with each other. So today, I want to take that particular definition in a lot more depth and understand that there is so much more to yoga than merely asanas or pranayama or just meditation. To start with the classical way, the eightfold path of Ashtanga Yoga, the first one is Yama, which is all about moral values, Niyama, about discipline. Then comes Asana, the physical postures. Then comes Pranayama, the work of your breath. Then comes Pratyahara, control over your senses. Then comes Dharana, that is concentration. Then comes Dhyana, meditation. And then comes Samadhi, which is the enlightenment. However, we all know the tremendous therapeutic impact that yoga has on our lives, whether it's your endocrine system, whether it's your digestive system, whether it's your nervous system, whether it's your muscular system, whether you name the system, for everything, yoga has a way to enhance health. So I wouldn't be taking time to be discussing on the physical health benefits alone of yoga, but there is so much more to yoga that we'll need to tap onto and start making it work for us. So let's get started with this. If you look at a human being, we are made up of five personalities. There is physical, the gross body. Then there is mental, where we form thoughts. Then there is intellectual, where we use intelligence to make certain decisions. Then there is emotional personality, where we feel. And finally, the cause, the spiritual personality, in the presence of which all the other four functions, in the absence of which nothing functions. Now, regular practice of yoga will only ensure that the quality of our experiences starts getting evolving into higher and higher, as well as deeper and deeper. Now, physical and mental together, that experience, that is one kind of experience, we call it more about enjoyment. It is to do more with physical gratification of food, of certain drinks, or so on and so on. It's all about those kind of physical gratification. The bridge between your mental and intellectual personality, that experience, it's a different kind of experience, and that has to do everything with more with entertainment. You will then look at it, yeah, acha laga, this is not okay. We start getting into this kind of usual dialogues when you start qualifying those experiences. Then between the mental and intellectual, there's a little more from intellectual to emotional, there's a very different kind of thing. That's more about education or enrichment, where you focus on learning a skill and then say that I like this particular thing. I probably this is not my cup of tea. It can be any kind of skills and so on, where there's a lot of judgment that gets involved. Then you start qualifying. This is meant for me. This is not for me. And finally, there is between emotional and spiritual. That is the enlightening experiences. And each of these experiences are very different. And what yoga does is it starts helping you go from the lower level of experiences to higher level of experiences. Let's take a quick example to illustrate my point. uh, what does yoga mean? Yoga means union. You feel one with, and suddenly they no longer seem like someone else. Their success also you are able to celebrate. This is the example that I taken in my previous session. So for people who had an arranged marriage, initially it is all between mental and intellectual. You do a lot of things. You do the photo matching, you feel acha hai, nahi acha hai, all this kind of thing. You do the horoscope matching, you'll say I will meet that person once, I will talk. So we get into these kind of things where there's a lot of judgment gets involved, and you try to see that whether his or her, I am compatible with them or not. We get into this kind of experiences. Now after certain time of marriage, when you are with them, where there's a lot of union, you feel one with, their success becomes your success, their pain you start feeling it, you feel that oneness. Now there is no longer that judgment. You start relating to them on an emotional plane. Isn't it so? In fact, the best example is for parents. The moment you know that you are going to be a parent in a few months' time, you start loving the child unconditionally without even knowing whether it's a boy or a girl. When the child is born, no matter what, you will hold and say, my daughter or my son, and there's so much love. You will not judge it saying that does the color match mine, is the nose sharp, etc. You will not even look by features. However, the child is, there is love because you're straight away interacting the depth of your experiences straight away into the emotional plane and not in the intellectual or the judgment plane. Can you all resonate with it? That is what yoga is all about. It will start helping you, taking your experiences a lot more higher and help you evolve in that whole process. And this is what we actually need. The moment our experiences start changing, the perspective starts changing, you start realizing the same thing is a very different thing altogether. And I have few examples to share over here. And then we look at how we can implement the same thing into our life. So, as I shared in my previous session, you are going in a car, signal is red, the guy behind you starts honking unnecessarily, and you start usually getting irritated. The moment you turn around and you realize that it's an ambulance, suddenly you have a very different perspective altogether, isn't so? It so happened once that I was driving. I felt that I am driving well. Someone else felt that I was driving a little rashly, and they just wanted to abuse and they raised the hand up. And the moment they saw me, their hand went down and it turned into high. Haven't been gone through such experiences? The moment you know who's that person, you feel one with. Suddenly, your anger or your irritation or frustration straight away changes into, "Hey, I know him," right? So, what happened in those moments? That is what yoga was doing for you. The moment you can feel that oneness with the other person, you see the quality of our experiences can change drastically. Strangers are no longer strangers, you start feeling one with them. You may not know them, but still you can relate to them, and that's the highest quality of humanity that comes in. Without knowing a person, you start helping them. Suppose you are going on a road and you find someone who's riding in his bike or suddenly fall down. Don't we simply go and help them? And when we help them, and don't we feel good? We don't even know who's the person. We will probably never ever meet the person again. This usually only happens in movies where the hero keeps heroine every places, but otherwise, usually the chances of meeting that person is so less. Yet, when you help that person, you feel something good. Why? Because yoga was working for you. So while the what is yoga and the benefits of yoga is a huge stream, today I wanted to focus on what happens when we constantly start working on our asanas, breath, and silence. And you start also implementing automatically. You see, when you have control over these three pillars of yoga, slowly you'll realize that the other pillars of yoga also starts becoming a part of you. You cannot meditate without having concentration. You cannot concentrate without withdrawing your senses. Slowly, all these things starts becoming a part of you. Now, it's very important, especially in today's world, that we enhance the quality of experiences, because only when you enhance the quality of experiences, the amount of noise that is there over here will drastically reduce. We need to do it, my dear friends. I'll probably share a story from my life. There was a day I saw my dad dance right in front of me in the morning when I had to go for the office. And he only said, "Vikas, you're so busy working so that you are not even able to enjoy your son dancing." And my son was just 3.5 at that point of time. And it was a Saturday morning. I said, "I'll come in the evening and play with him, dad." And I left. And that was the last time that I ever saw my dad, because evening I only got a call that he is no more. He was waiting for an auto or a bus. A car came, lost control, and the person, instead of pressing the brake, out of that tension, pressed the accelerator, came to the pedestrian side, knocked my dad spot death. In that whole process, he hit two more cars, hit another person who died after 3 days, And then finally the car stopped when it rammed into a tree. Now, yes, was it painful? Extremely painful, not easy to handle it. But the thing what yoga has done for me is when I met the driver in the court after more than a year, I was there, and the other guy who lost his life, his son also was with me. And we saw this person approaching. I just looked at this guy and I could see this guy was so disturbed that in case the police was not there, he would have probably gone and slapped this guy. So I went straight to this person, looked him into his eyes, and I said, I forgive you. You did not know my dad. My dad did not know you. His time had come, and somehow it happened through you. So I just shook hands. I said, I forgive you. And I just came off. So the guy who was next to me, he said, Vikas bhai, aisa kyun bola aapne? And I looked at him and I said, no matter how upset you are right now, whatever we do, our fathers are not going to come back. Suppose instead of him driving and me losing my dad, suppose it was the other way around. I asked him, suppose if it was your dad driving and he has lost his family member, how would you actually feel? None of us do this purposely. It happened, we'll have to accept, right? Now, this level of, in fact, that night as I was introspecting, I realized that this is not the same me. Probably a few years earlier, I wouldn't have handled it the same level of maturity. Then realized what yoga is beginning to do beyond all that complicated asanas that we do or the breath work. Something within me started seeing the whole this thing extremely differently, and that is what we need. The moment we start practicing yoga well, what do we mean by practicing yoga well? Even when you're doing a very basic asanas, if you can get your awareness to the present moment and focus on deepening and elongating your breath, suddenly you will start realizing that there is so much more in an asana than just the physicality of it. Rather than trying to go hard and somehow I will try to take the leg back and doing all those things, every moment just feel one with your breath and see that is your breath, the span of your breath getting lengthier and lengthier and softer and rhythmic and more rhythmic. Suddenly you'll realize that not only on the mat you might burn those calories. No, that's not the main emphasis of yoga. Something within you starts evolving, something within you starts feeling so beautiful, something within you starts blossoming, as my Guru Mahatria says it, and you'll suddenly find there is so much more lightness and calmness within. All the noise that we carried before we come into the class starts going off. Very important aspect of yoga is to ensure that you end with a high quality shavasana. What do I mean by high quality? I see a lot of people when it comes to shavasana becoming so restless that they leave. Just like the muscles needs to cool down, it's also very important that our nervous system also cools down. And this can happen only when we start relaxing. You will let go. In your shavasana, take time to feel gratitude to the entire body. It is the only address in which we live in this lifetime. Whatever experience we need to have, it can happen only through the senses of your body. Without this, nothing is going to happen. So it becomes even more important. As I said in the previous session, don't look at it as I'm working out. Don't look at it as I'm burning calories. Don't look at it as only I am losing fat or losing inches and toning my body. Look at it as an expression of gratitude and love to your own body. Then, no matter how hard, whatever you're doing, suddenly it starts becoming different. You start looking at it differently. Same posture, there is so much more joy. Yes, each of the posture has its own challenges depending on our current level of fitness, but fitness is something else. The way you start enjoying it is something else. The moment you start doing all these things, automatically you'll find that there is so much more glow and joy in your face. That's what yoga can do for you. I, in fact, started my entire yogic journey even before I started my practice in 2005, where I was only focused on asanas and I want this and that. It's only after my Guru Mahatra came into my life, I realized the value of breath and silence. And finally, my teacher, Yogacharya Bharat Shetty sir, he practically showed me how do I get involved with my breath in every of the posture, and suddenly the way I have transformed as a human being is different. The way I have transformed myself as a teacher is very different. The depth of experiences have changed. So the events are still the same, but the depth or the quality of experiences are so different. And suddenly you see life, as I keep saying, life becomes peaceful progress and not stressful success. Earlier, when I was in my software career, there were so many days where you spend the entire day in so many activities, but you just really don't feel so productive. Can you guys resonate with this? Why? Because I was not able to enjoy everything that I was doing. Now, a lot of my friends ask me, "You are 11 years in the IT field, how do you feel?" So I, with a smile, say, "From pressure to pleasure." And that's what yoga has done. It's not just about the asanas or the pranayama or the meditation. Overall, the quality of life has become extraordinarily beautiful. And this is what I want to share with you, my dear friends, saying that when we start getting involved in an asana through our breath and also complement it with good silence, either through shavasana or through your meditation, you'll suddenly realize that not only physically a lot of things starts healing better and better and better, you'll realize the quality of thoughts, which is all about the mental realm, starts changing. Lot of unnecessary thoughts which are like weeds gets dropped automatically, and the quality of thoughts starts improving because the quantity of thoughts is coming down. As you get involved in your asanas or your practice better and better, when I say getting involved, you are doing it with your presence or with your awareness, with your breath involved. Slowly you'll find that intellectually your entire spectrum of judgment changes. What used to look bad earlier, suddenly you'll realize that, oh, it's not actually a bad, it's actually a learning opportunity. What used to make you feel irritated, you realize, oh, this is actually, I can learn something from it and start evolving. And slowly you'll realize that where earlier you're holding on to hatred, now it starts becoming forgiveness. Where earlier it was all about feeling envy or jealousy because you are not able to handle someone's success, what yoga does, it enhances your quality of acceptance, and suddenly you find that, oh, that's actually an inspiration. What earlier was fear starts becoming an adventure, and you suddenly realize that what earlier was a negative emotion slowly starts becoming a positive emotion. So taking this further, you will realize as you get into higher and higher plane in the emotional realm, your depth of gratitude is different, your depth of love is even more deep, your depth of devotion is beyond words, your surrender or your faith is something at a very different level altogether. So suddenly you will realize that you are still you, but you are not you. Looks so paradoxical. Physically you look the same, but what you are doing is now very very different, and how we are doing it same different. Same action is done with a very different feeling altogether, and you realize that work is no longer work, it becomes pleasure. And then you, for a moment, just think you are doing what you love doing, and your life is impacting thousands and millions of lives. How would you feel? Isn't it great? That's the point that I'm trying to make. Suddenly your life becomes so meaningful, so wonderful, and this is what yoga can do for you. Apart from taking care of physically healing a different ailments, mentally bringing the quantity of thoughts as well as enhancing the quality of thoughts, intellectually helping you make better decisions, emotionally ensuring that you are more and more in positive emotions and less in negative emotions, because the deeper and deeper you breathe, it's very very hard to get into negative emotions. Automatically life will push you into positive emotion. In fact, I would like to illustrate this with a story. It seems there was a village where the people were in a lot of disharmony, not enough rains, and fighting with one another. So there was a very renowned yogi who walked into this village and he told the people, I can help you come out of this disharmony and become a lot more harmonious as well as a prosperous village. But I have only one condition. On full moon day, I will meditate, After I open my eyes, I'll ask you guys to give me something to eat or drink. After that, I will answer whatever questions you ask and you will get your solutions. So the entire village agreed. So the first month happened, he opened his eyes after meditation and he said, I want to drink coconut water. And they brought coconut water, he drank, he answered their questions, and suddenly the village started getting more and more harmonious. Like this, another month he said, I feel like eating a mango. Another month he said, I want tomato juice. And things changed. 6 months later, this was the seventh month, and the name and fame of this yogi had spread so much. The neighboring villages also had come for clarity. So he opened his eyes, he looked at all of them, and he said, today I feel like drinking alcohol. Suddenly the villagers were stunned. What? Such a Sattvic person, he also wants to drink alcohol. They discussed among themselves and they said, remember what he said 6 months back, that without any questions or any conditions, we have to give whatever he says. So they said, fine. And they brought it's just a water bottle, brought a bottle and kept it in front of him. He looked at the bottle and he looked at all of them and he said, do you all know one thing? Even after doing the yoga sadhana for over 30 years, occasionally I still have these kind of desires that I used to have long back. But then he folded his hands like Swami Vivekananda and he said, but what this yoga sadhana has done to me is, I know without the support of my hands, that bottle of alcohol cannot go down my throat. And essentially, what he told you and me here is, we have still not reached that level of mental mastery where whenever we want, we can choose our emotions, whenever we want, we can choose our thoughts. That's what we are striving for. But what yoga does is, you can take control of your body, you can take control of your breath. Automatically, third part of the triangle is the mind. If you can take control of your body and breath, third part, the mind also has to follow. Eventually, you'll realize that that's the way to mastering, and that's the benefit of yoga. So my humble request is, don't go to one class, say call it trial class, and start judging the teacher in one class. I i don't think so that's right, because I think you got to be fair to the teacher also. A teacher has a lot more experience. We as teachers, we take a class or two to understand what's the strength of a student, where we need to be little careful and so on, and then eventually we'll start finding ways in which we can help them accomplish results. If we start judging, that's what is happening these days, where we should have got emotions involved, we start getting the judgment, the lower domain, and start finding this is for me or this is not for me. In fact, this is not a college exam viva where we the invigilator comes to judge the student, right? So this it's, if in fact that is allowed, that is fine, because an expert is coming and judging someone else who's yet to get that expertise. But here it turns out to be the other way around, and the only loser in that whole process is the student who wants to go with that mindset of trial and let me see and so on. Certain experiences in one or two sittings we don't realize. You will have to be patient, try at least for a week or at least for a month, and then see whether that is really working for you or not. That's my humble request here. Focus on deepening your experiences, and what earlier was enjoyment, see if it can become a little more entertaining. What was entertaining, see if it can become enriching. What is enriching, see if it can become enlightening. Through that, we'll be able to help a lot more lives and also live with peaceful progress. And I would like to take few questions that you guys have, and then I would conclude from there. Happy evening to all of you who's written over here. Okay. One of the question Poo Pearls asks, how does that yoga help with union with others? One simple way that you can implement, dear, is whenever anybody succeeds in whatever thing, start celebrating it as though it's your own success. Over a period of time, you'll realize that you can never feel jealous for anybody's success. Everybody's success kind of becomes a part of your success, and that gives you the joy and freedom of celebrating everybody without putting yourself down. Let me give an example. When India is playing Australia, we feel one with India, and that's where we want Virat Kohli to do well and David Warner not to do well. Two David Warner doing well, you start feeling much better. Whereas Virat Kohli doing well, you feel, oh no, I want my Hyderabad team to win, and so on. What changed? Just that you are now feeling one with Warner and not with Virat Kohli. That's all. It's just a perspective, right? That's the union that we are speaking about. So, any other question that you guys have? Shubham Jain is asking how to control fast moving thoughts in the mind with the help of yoga. Dear Shubham, when you regularly start practicing yoga, when you enhance the span of your breath as well as make it a lot more rhythmic and softer, you will suddenly realize that the number of thoughts will reduce, the quantity of thoughts will reduce. Suddenly, the fast moving thoughts don't appear anymore fast. You will be able to do justice to the thoughts because the quality of thoughts will automatically increase. All that you'll have to do is you'll have to be patient, and when I say patient, I am again very clear. Today's world, if you want to do any kind of educational degree after your, let's say, graduation, minimum program that we have is at least for a year, correct? Or 2 years or 3 years, it goes like that. But minimum is 1 year. You will have to, anything that we take up, give it at least a year's time and be as consistent as we can be and see that what it is going to do for you. Not just physically, but also look at it in terms of your internal or inner growth. How have you actually transformed? And you'll find that the quantity of thoughts, the quality of thoughts, everything is going to get better and better because quantity will come down, automatically quality go up, and it starts making it a lot more easy. Invest time in your breath and silence, and that's the trick. Pratima is asking me, I always feel one with other. Is it because of yoga? Today we have defined yoga as only asana. Asana is only a very small aspect of yoga. Yoga is a lot more. Feeling one with others is actual yoga. That itself is yoga. And that's a very beautiful quality that you possess, Pratima. Keep holding on to that quality and keep inspiring a lot more people through your peaceful progress. And the rewards are in your way. How to practice yoga as novice as we cannot concentrate on breathing? Ask Rajesh. Dear Rajesh, it will take time for mastering each of the steps. Yoga is definitely not like instant coffee or instant Maggie where we expect instant results. Look at it. As of now, the Yoga Sutras, which was written 5,000 years ago, almost everything has evolved and changed. The houses that we used to live 100 years ago and today has changed. The phones that we were using 10 years ago and now is completely different. TVs that we had 20 years ago and now is very different. Computers from bigger sizes have become smaller, so smaller and more powerful. Yet one thing which has held through the test of time is yoga. What was being taught thousands of years ago and what we are practicing now is still the same because that's the foundation in which everything else starts working. So you will have to be patient. You will have to give yourself time rather than looking at did I get this result or not, which will only add to a lot more stress. Ask yourself in a month, at least 24 days, am I consistent with my practice? That's all. If not, go back one more day practice. Go back one more day practice. The more and more consistent you are, you'll suddenly realize that everything is beginning to get better. Bodily, the health conditions come down. It's more rejuvenated. You feel fresh. Mentally, you realize the quantity of thoughts has come down. Quality of thoughts is getting better. Your decision making is a lot better. Emotionally, you start feeling very, very differently. And then you know yoga is working for you. Thank you, Sana. Deepa asked me how to improve concentration. Specifically, a lot of balancing postures when you stand, do tree posture or the Vimanasana, a lot of such postures where you're on one leg or just balancing the hands because you have to get completely involved to maintain that balance starts helping you with your concentration. Again, you start practicing yoga, Look at it as a ritual for self improvement to help you actualize and maximize your potential and be as consistent as you can be. You'll realize that you would be helping someone else to improve their concentration. Okay, is there any other question, my dear friends? Thank you so much. I would like to conclude by saying that this is the last week of the YouTube live wellness sessions by Global Insurance Brokers. Uh, we are very thankful to you guys for being with us, and we were able to guide you in physical and mental wellness during this COVID 19 lockdown. In case you want exclusive such events for your organization, for your team, kindly ask your HR to get in touch with Global Insurance Brokers, and we would be very happy to have a session exclusively for you. I love you all so much. Thank you so much for your time. Namaste.